Audio Jungle.
Crash that left 5 dead described as most devastating in public transportation sector. Up to yesterday, the public transportation sector was still mourning the loss of 4 members among 5 people killed in last week's tragic Trelawney crash, including Simone Simpson Minto, who ironically chaired an outreach community for disease operators before her own demise. The son of an operator who was also on the ill-fated vehicle but escaped with minor injuries, rounded off the 5 who perished in last Sunday's horrific early morning crash on the St. Mark's Trelawney roadway. The deceased include Minto's partner 42-year-old Dwayne Campbell, 22-year-old Akeem Roberts, Quanardo Owens, and Horace Tollo, all of St. Catherine addresses. Up to Friday, 1 of the 7 who sustained physical injuries and were hospitalized remain in hospital. Director of Communication of the All Voice Road Taxi Association, Laurent Finnegan, and President of the Transport Operators Development Sustainable Services Studs, Hector Newman, who both visited the crash site last week, where they laid flowers and observed a moment of silence, described the incident as the most mournful recorded in the sector in modern history. Over the last 4 years, we've been losing operators in accidents and by the gun, but I can tell you clearly, it is the first we had the loss of lives of owners and operators in the sector that have the sector mourning the way it has been mourned at this joint Finnegan. Some of our operators have been brutally murdered over the last 5 years. In 2023, we had up to 69 operators that were murdered, but we have never had this level of mourning that we are having now. So far, all indications, 4 of the deceased are owners and operators, and the other one is the son of a owner and operator, he added. Newman concurred that the crash is one of the worst tragedies to beset the sector. Since last Sunday, it has been a mournful occasion for us here in the public transportation sector, and that is why we travel all the way from Kingston to come to the very spot where our colleagues have left us, Newman noted. He argued that the tragedy was compounded by the loss of Minto, who had been a tower of strength in the sector, particularly in the area of social welfare. Right behind us is the spot where Simpson met her demise. We are sad, and because of her position, as President Finnegan told you, because of her position in the transport sector as a person who was in charge of the social welfare of operators, we could not hold back but to be here and to ensure that her position remains intact because many of our operators perish without support in their families, Newman added. Finnegan said Minto has been a stalwart in the sector. I must tell you that in 2022, we set up an outreach committee based on the number of deaths of our operators, and when you check, they were the breadwinners of the family. So we set up this outreach community, and she was the chairperson for it, he explained. And when there's a need, even when the operators don't contribute, Simone would go in her personal funds and donate to families of the deceased. I remember on one occasion an entire family was burnt out in East Kingston. When I called her, she said, Mr. Finnegan, I can't come to Kingston, meet me in Spanish Town. That's where she lived and worked. When I got there were several bags of groceries, several bags of children's clothing and shoes. So we have missed a stalwart, a committed member of public transportation sector, and that is one of the reasons why it is so mournful to us, he added. Mayor of Falmouth, Councillor C. Junigajo, who expressed condolence to the family members, friends and colleagues of the deceased, used the occasion to urge motorists to desist from speeding on the roadways. According to the police, about 2:30 a.m. on Sunday, July 6, at Theatre Heights with mostly public transportation stakeholders, was en route to Hanover for a colleague's all-white birthday party when upon reaching a section of St. March, the vehicle veered across the road and flipped for about 50 meters down in palm trees until it crashed into a concrete utility pole. The impact sent some of the occupants flying from the vehicle. Mechanic charged after drug found concealed in seasoning. A 51-year-old mechanic has been charged after allegedly attempting to send ganja overseas concealed in all-purpose season, while 2 others have been charged in connection with a cocaine seizure. Police say on January 29, 2025, Jason Joseph of Wakefield District, Linstead, St. Catherine, attempted to send a package labeled all-purpose seasoning to London from a St. Catherine post office. During routine screening, anomalies were detected, prompting the involvement of the Firearms and Narcotics Investigations Division A search of the parcel allegedly revealed 8 ounces of ganja. Following an operation on July 10, Joseph was apprehended and subsequently charged with possession of ganja, dealing in ganja, attempting to export ganja, and conspiracy to export ganja. Also on Saturday, 48-year-old John Todd of Purfield Avenue, Kingston 8, and 49-year-old Errol White, a former of East Riverside Drive, Kingston 19, were charged with possession of cocaine, dealing in cocaine, trafficking cocaine, and conspiracy to traffic cocaine. Reports are that about 3:30 p.m., Find personnel intercepted a Honda motor vehicle along the North-South Highway. A search of the vehicle uncovered 7 parcels of cocaine with an estimated street value of Todd and White, who were occupants of the vehicle, were arrested and formally charged. Find says it is investigating more than 100 cases since the start of the year in which drugs have been found in packages sent over courier services. In some instances, up to 1 pound of cocaine has been found. Port Royal, now a World Heritage Site. Port Royal has officially been inscribed on the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO World Heritage Site. The decision to inscribe the archaeological ensemble of 17th century Port Royal was made at the meeting of the World Heritage Committee, now underway in Paris, France. Port Royal was inscribed on the basis of Criterion 4 and Criterion 6. Criterion 4 refers to an outstanding example of a type of building, architectural or technological ensemble, or landscape which illustrates significant stages in human history. Criterion 6 requires a nominated site to be directly or tangibly associated with events or living traditions, with ideas or with belief, with artistic and literary work of outstanding universal significance. In its recommendation, the Port Royal should be inscribed. The evaluation theme wrote, "The integrity of the property is based on the territorial and underwater evidence of the 17th century town of Port Royal. The ensemble contains all the attributes necessary to convey the outstanding universal value, including the entire town encircled by the 6 fortifications present at the time of the devastating earthquake in 1692 and its 17th century urban plan. The underwater section of the town are exceptionally well preserved under layers of sediments." In a video statement following the inscription, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport Oliver Grange said Jamaica was proud that our nomination of this unique, territorial and submerged site have been accepted. This inscription to the World Heritage List supports our national effort to preserve this heritage for all humanity. The minister expressed appreciation to all those who supported Jamaica's nomination and played a role in the successful nomination. In this regard, I express appreciation to the World Heritage Center, the International Council of Monuments and Sites, the Government of Mexico, Canada, and the Netherlands and Japan, as well as the people of Port Royal, whose livelihood inextricably linked to the preservation, promotion, and sustainable development of the site. Port Royal joins the Blue and Jonquil Mountains as Jamaica's site on the World Heritage List. To subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.